Today, I'm going to be reacting to Kateri's The Ultimate Trench Crusade Lore Breakdown, Definitive Edition. Please go support his content, and the original video will be in the description. Thank you. Welcome to A Christian Reacts. And before we get into the video, if you like what you see, please consider a like and subscription, as that really helps the channel out. Share it to all platforms and even to yourself, and that really helps the channel out. And I do things a little different here. So I do bring biblical commentary that's pertaining to the lore that is being talked about. And I also do a Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible series where I kind of do the same thing, where I bring similar lore. Like the last short I did was about a zombie apocalypse. Very interesting. So, and I do talk about things that you probably won't hear in church. It's in the Bible, but you won't hear it in church. But anyways, let's go ahead and get this started. Let me get this over here. Okay. Make sure sound is good. We good. August 12th, 1099 AD.
The bells of Jerusalem are ringing, as the First Crusade is at an end. Christian forces have achieved a significant military victory in recapturing Jerusalem and the Holy Land from Muslim control. As celebrated.
And real quick, guys, for all the Trench Crusade fans out there, I do want to apologize. My last two videos of Trench Crusade haven't been that good, and I want to apologize. So I'm going to amend that today. And anyways, I forgot what I was going to say.
Celebrations of jubilant victory are celebrated by the Crusaders. They are yet to realize that a much darker, more bloodied conflict awaits them in the immediate future. This is because a group of Templars have discovered an ancient evil, and this ancient evil, along with their own lust for power, is about to bring about a cataclysmic conflict which will define all of creation. Welcome to the world of Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade is a skirmish-scale tabletop miniatures game created by Mike Francina, an illustrator who worked on games such as Path of Exile, Diablo 4, and System Shock 3, as well as Thomas Perinen, a Finnish game designer. The world they imagined was one where the battle between heaven and hell has found its way into the year 1914. 800 years after the war began following the First Crusades, when a heretical band of Templars defied the Almighty, put aside their vows, and opened the gates of hell.
If they were even part of, anyways, they were more of an occult group, the Templars, than, let's say, Christian. They were the first kind of rich bankers, let's just put it that way. But anyways, I digress.
Upon the world. The result is a grimdark universe of such in-depth and exceptional lore that I felt it was worth taking a deeper dive into this world for both myself and curious viewers such as yourself. A quick note on what this video is and is not. This video is an organized gathering of the canonical lore from the official lore primer and playset rules. It is no—
You have to give it that the art direction is really good, in my opinion. And some of those helmets remind me of a Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. But anyways.
Not an introduction to the actual tabletop game.
Great game, by the way.
But only the lore it is centered around. This video is also not fan fiction. It is a reorganization and paraphrasing of official source material. Any speculative lore will be made clear that it is indeed speculative. Otherwise, it is canonical and directly pulled from the source material. This video is also—
for all the Trench Crusaders out there, what are all those crosses there for? Do they actually protect against something? Are they wards, or what's going on there? But anyways.
Not intended to be the definitive guide to everything Trench Crusade, as it is being made before the game's official Kickstarter has even begun, and therefore in short time it will contain information which is limited in scope compared to the full scale of the universe. I do hope, however, this video can be a timeless starting point for anybody looking to get into the lore of this world.
I wouldn't mind having a little pet like that, though. Just saying.
This content was also created for a very mature audience, so viewer discretion is highly advised.
It's the
With
grim
all
dark.
of that out of the way, let's dive in to the world of Trench Crusade.
Are we going to the deep end or the low end? No, I'm kidding.
The First
I
Crusade,
am ready for
launched
the
in
deep end.
1096 and concluding in 1099, was a pivotal military campaign initiated by the Catholic Church to reclaim Jerusalem and the Holy Land from Muslim control. Catalyzed by Pope Urban II's call to arms at the Council of Clermont in 1095, the crusade attracted a diverse...
So real quick, I do want to get this out there. This is for Christians, right? We adhere to the Bible and what it says, and not any man. Okay. It's not me, not the Pope. The only person we should be listening to is Jesus Christ, right? So, I'm just going to say that.
Army of knights, soldiers, and peasants from across Europe, driven by religious zeal and promises of spiritual rewards. The culmination of the First Crusade was the Siege of Jerusalem in 1099. After a protracted and brutal assault, the Crusaders breached the city walls and took control. The establishment of the Crusader states, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem, marked the successful conclusion of the First Crusade and initiated a period of Latin Christian rule in the Holy Land. The story of the Trench Crusade universe begins following the conquest of Jerusalem. Following the conquest of the Holy City, the Knights Templar discovered a demonic artifact beneath some of the ancient temples, which corrupted the Templars who discovered it. And these Templars began communing with the demons who spoke through the artifact and performing unholy religious rites. This event is known as the First Heresy. The lore also references an event known as the Act of Ultimate Heresy, which opens the gates of hell upon the world. Although there is no reference as to the difference between the First Heresy and the Act of Ultimate.
All right, so I want to bring up how darkness can corrupt. So this is the book of Adam and Eve. Now, I will say it's not scripture, okay? But it does agree a lot with scripture, surprisingly. Now, the Cave of Treasures, I'm not sure. I haven't really read it and all that, but there's a lot of stuff that agrees with scripture in this. So I will say that. But anyways, so this is, in my opinion, it gives us a glimpse of what happened to Satan. So, then when God, who is merciful, this is chapter 13 in the book of Adam and Eve. Then when God, who is merciful, full of pity, heard Adam's voice, and he said to him, "O Adam, so long as the good angel was obedient to me, a bright light rested upon him and on his hosts." See, in my opinion, this is Satan. "But when he transgressed my commandment, I deprived him of that bright nature, and he became dark. And when he was in the heavens, in the realms of light, he knew nothing of darkness." Now pay attention to this, like it corrupts him. This darkness is taken over him. Okay, and but he transgressed, and I made him fall from heaven unto the earth. Ready? And it was this darkness that came over him. So this darkness has a pull, right? And it can corrupt you. And I want to bring this up. Where is it? Right here. Okay, let me get to the King James here. Sorry about that. Where's the King James? Right. He brought, I should tell you what it is. Psalms 107:14. He brought them out of darkness and the shadow of death. Now, we've talked about the shadow of death a lot on this channel. And break their bands asunder. So it's like a prison thing, right? It's corrupting you and it's holding on to you, right? Which is probably what's happening to the Templars there, right? They're communing. And then we have this. Psalms 64, 2 and 5, or 2 through 5. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. That they may shoot in secret at the perfect, and suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. Ready? They encourage themselves in an evil matter. Ready? They commune of laying snares and privily, and they say, "Who shall see them?" They search out iniquities. They accomplish diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. Yeah, so there you go. They're communing with the secret counsel of the wicked. But anyways.
Heresy. Either way, the gate of hell is opened and Jerusalem is destroyed as a result.
I'll bring that up here in a
2
second.
years later, in the year of our Lord 1101, the year of 3 battles occurs. The heretics, men and demons who fight for the forces of hell, spend this time conquering most of the Levant, a region in the eastern Mediterranean which includes the modern-day countries of Cyprus, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria.
Okay. So this is Matthew 16:18, right? It talks about the gates of hell. Matthew, 16:18. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, right? And these are portals, right? And I will bring up something here, because it talks about the gates of the shadow of death and all this. Or have you opened up the doors? So I'll bring that up here in a second.
Following this, the city of Antioch is fortified and turns into the central point of resistance against the armies of hell for the church and mankind. 8 years following the centralization of resistance forces in Antioch, a group of men known as the 17 Martyrs traveled into the earthly domains of hell to convert the heretics back to the faith. But they were instead captured and are now kept within hot white brazen bulls, now and unto eternity, or their rescue. The 13th century would...
All right. So this is Job 38:17. Have the gates of death been opened unto thee? Or hast thou seen the doors of the shadow of death? Very interesting. Yeah.
See the church suffer through the wars of Draclavianism, which would cause internal conflict and schism within the church, allowing for the heretics to expand their territory. These events would lead to the death of millions.
And real quick, by the way, a church isn't a building, it's the people, right? You can have church in a cave, in a park. You don't need a building. I just want to say that.
Over the course of the century, although the exact nature of the wars of Draclavianism is yet to be revealed at the time of this video's making, Draclavianism is a word for the belief that Jesus was crucified using 3 nails, which goes against the more commonly held Catholic belief that he was crucified using 4 nails. This means it's entirely possible that the church was having a theological dispute, which led to war and schism, but this is speculative. 40 years following the events of the wars of Draclavianism,
and I do want to say this too. You know, Jesus was probably browned or olive skinned and probably had shorter hair, right? It was Pope Borgio the third. I can't remember what it was, but Borgio, right? Or Borgia. And his son, who, had the long hair, and that's where they get this picture of Jesus from, right? It's not the actual picture of Jesus. So I do want to get that out there as well. And by the way, I do believe he was homosexual, but I'm not sure on that. So someone can give me the answer to that. So yeah, it's not the picture of Jesus, right? I just do want to get that out there.
Beelzebub, a major demon present throughout the scriptures, unleashes a plague known as the Black Grail upon.
I'm sorry, I got to bring this up too. So in the Bible, in 2 Kings, it talks about Nergal, right? And of course, this is also a Warhammer, well, mostly a Warhammer 40K channel. And he was the god of inflicted death and the god of disease and of war, which is very interesting. I'm sure that's where Games Workshop got Nurgle from. But this Nergal could very well be Beelzebub. So, not sure on that, but it is interesting.
On the world, turning tens of millions of people into metastasized vessels. The Black Grail's timeline is the same as the timeline for the Black Death or the bubonic plague in our timeline. The major difference in this timeline is that the Black Grail can reanimate its victims into...
What is that song called? It's like I'm blue and something something. Anyways, Someone in the comments, let me know.
The deceased soldiers for the forces of hell, leading to an event named the Corpse Wars. The resolution of this conflict would not come until the year 1429, where Saint Joan of Arc would drive the Black Grail out from mainland Europe. More than a century later, in the year of our Lord 1545, the great resistant city of Antioch would be destroyed entirely by an infernal weapon of unknown origin and nature. This would lead to the construction of New Antioch, the ongoing focal point of the church and the faithful. In the year of our Lord 1666, named the Year of Six Woes, the newly crafted Heretic naval fleet captured Gibraltar, becoming the central base of operations for the Heretic army against all of Europe. This would lead to England constructing what would become known as the Fortress of the White Cliffs, although there is no details on what this fortress actually is. The next 2 centuries would see significant grounds gained by Heretic forces, who successfully...
I would love to see Hell's submarines. That would be interesting. In the Bible, there's an entity called the Leviathan, right? Or also called the Deep. And I'll bring that up here in a second too. And there are many of these Leviathans that are in the Bible, and they're basically sea dragons. And I'll show you that it's in the Bible. But anyways, I think that would be cool if Trench Crusade kind of used those as submarine type vehicles or something like that. I think the creators of that should at least look into that. But anyways,
destroyed the fleet of England while simultaneously constructing and deploying the world's first submarines, which would cause global famine through their destruction of merchant navies. These successes would lead to Heretic forces launching a conquest against mainland Europe following the storming of the city of Rijeka. This would all culminate in the Year of Broken Trinity, numbered in the year of our Lord 1894. During this year, the Death Commandos of Hell would simultaneously...
Okay, well, here's the sea dragon, right? So Isaiah 27:1. In that day the Lord, with a sore and great and strong sword, shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. So who is this crooked serpent? Well, the Bible labels it as the deep. But anyways, I'll get to that one.
Assassinate the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Aliyah, and the Holy Roman Emperor, throwing the church and the faithful into turmoil and chaos. The church would gain ground back over the next 2 decades, however, by successfully launching the church space program in 1899, constructing the moving fortress of Britannia in 1907, and fighting heretics to a stalemate at the Battle of Cordoba in 1910, preventing the heretics from gaining access to the heartland of Hispania.
The Vatican secret space program.
Setting, the year of our Lord, 1914.
Might as well take this time here. So Ezekiel 31:4. The waters made him great. So this is talking about this Assyrian character. And if you don't know, the Assyrian is mentioned a lot in the Bible, but you don't hear him at all in the church for some reason. But he's Satan's second-hand man. Okay. Here, I'll show you that. So right here. And it calls him Pharaoh, king of Egypt, by the way, which is very interesting. And he's also called a seraphim in Isaiah 14. And Ra would be considered a seraphim. But anyways, I digress. Okay. So, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude. Whom art thou like in greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches and a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. Now pay attention to this part. This is where the deep comes in, and it's a her. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high with her rivers running about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. This is Tiamat, right? Or in Norse mythology, Hela, or hell, right? Which is where we get the word hell from, in English, which is very interesting. But Hela, if you see, she has half her face darkened, right? Well, in Genesis 1:2, it says, darkness was upon the face of the deep. And here we have this entity called the deep. The deep set him up on high with her rivers. And what's interesting about Hela, or Hell, and Niflheim, there's a well in Hell, right? And or Niflheim, hell, basically. And rivers flow from it. So there you go. That is the deep. And it's the deep is Gaia, Tiamat, Hela, and these this woman Leviathan or female Leviathan that you see in almost all the mythologies.
Trench Crusade takes place in a World War I trench warfare setting. The following map, courtesy of Reddit user Deditrans Potashi, shows the general geographical area that the lore in Crusade encompasses. Technology-wise, the power of both heaven and hell allow each faction to have unique sets of ancient and modern weaponry. Thanks to the devoted followers of Saint Eligius, the patron saint of metalworkers, the Holy See's weaponsmiths and armorers were able to create steel alloys imbued with divine radiance, metals more durable than standard steel. These craftsmen have produced massive and durable suits of armor out of this metal.
How do they get the divine radiance? I would like to know that. I mean, actually, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like that. I think that's a cool concept, I think. But anyways, I digress.
Meanwhile, the Heretic legions have harnessed metals from the infernal forges of Tartarus, which surpass ordinary steel in strength, but come at a dire price. Wielding such weapons or donning these cursed armors inflicts searing damage on both body and soul, resulting in perpetually festering wounds that never heal. Because of these breakthroughs, melee combat is quite common in the Trench Crusade. However, rifles, machine guns, grenades, and artillery are all commonplace as well. There are also religious items, such as the helmets of the observers of the Synod of Strategic Prophecy, which allow them to hear the voice of God, which imbues great power at great cost.
Okay, so Tartarus, right? 2 Peter 2:4. For God spared not the angels who sinned and cast them down to hell and delivered them into the chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. Spared not the old world, but saved Noah. But anyways, if you don't know, Genesis 6 talks about how the angels came down, mated with women, and then created these giants and all kinds of weird stuff. And that's where Tartarus comes into play. This is where they were put, right? Which is the bottomless pit in the Bible. It's called the bottomless pit. It's like a prison house for the worst of the worst. But that's what Tartarus is.
This is only one example of how the faction's powers and abilities create unique and esoteric lore for units and thus creating a unique brand of warfare.
Which Peter translates Tartarus and they translate it to hell. But it's a specific prison house. Okay. If I can get my English right.
Standing for over 300 years since the destruction of Antioch in 1545, the sword and the shield of Europa and Africa, the Principality of New Antioch, is the first line of defense against the forces of hell, and the only thing standing between those forces and the conquest of the entirety of the Levant. Following the destruction...
I have a perfect verse for that, by the way. This is Daniel 12:1. So, in the mainstream church, we're told that the Holy Spirit is the restrainer, right? That is not true. This is what the Bible says who the restrainer is, okay? Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even that same time. In that time the people shall be delivered, everyone that should be found written in the book. And also in the book of Enoch, it says that Michael is the one who stands against chaos. I'll bring that up here. So, he's the first line of defense.
destruction of Antioch, the Sword Congress of Vienna resolved to reconstruct and strengthen the city in the year of our Lord 1559, establishing a yearly tithe to be sent to New Antioch by all loyal nations. However, this tribute is seldom monetary. Instead, it comprises a continuous flow of provisions, tools, ammunition, weaponry, machinery, and skilled labor from across Europa, the Mediterranean, and the African territories.
Gotta
The
have
city
them, right?
functions under the governance of the Office of the Propagation of Virtue. Although they are lenient towards the soldiers of the city, they otherwise ruthlessly prosecute any infraction of church doctrine.
All right. So this is 1 Enoch chapter 20. Okay, let me find my... Okay, verse 5. Michael, one of the holy angels, to wit, he that is set over the best part of mankind, ready and over chaos. So, for the Warhammer 40k fans out there.
The weekly executions of heretics has become a grand, highly attended public event as a result of this zeal. Within the city's techno-laboratories, the church diligently works to forge superhuman disciples, known as communicants, by using the cloned flesh and blood of Christ to endow them with extraordinary powers. Holding the title of Duke of New Antioch,
That sounds like a thing what is called the Despacini, which in my opinion isn't true at all. That Jesus had a family. You know, this is where the grail comes into play and all that stuff, right? And that Jesus has bloodlines and stuff like that, which nowhere in the, that's nowhere in the Bible. But this is what people have brought up. And it's called the Despacini. They're the family of Jesus.
and therefore emerging as the nominal supreme commander of all of the faithful's armed forces, is an unparalleled mark of honor and prestige, with the current holder of the title being Duke Constantine. Although he is the supreme commander of the faithful, most international troops fight under the command of their own leaders, but the army of the Principality is still the single largest fighting force against the forces of hell.
The Principality of New Antioch.
The Observers are an order of warrior monks who spend almost the entirety of their lives within the Temple of the Word, where, in absolute solitude, they sharpen their minds to become the ultimate weapons in the hand of God.
Yeah, which is interesting. Jesus is called the Word, right? And the prophets throughout the Old Testament say it, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, right? So that's very interesting because it says that the word, right, in John, anyways, that the word was with God and the word was God, right? And that nothing was created by him that wasn't created, or I forget how it goes, but something like that. He basically created everything. He's the hand of God, right? But anyways, yeah.
Only when the need arises are they summoned by the Synod of Strategic Prophecy. These observers wear helmets that are called Oculus helmets, which allow them to attune to the voice of God. This allows them, to a limited degree, the ability to perceive past, present, and future simultaneously. However, the unending reverberation of the divine echo in their ears makes sleep unattainable, compelling them to rely on powerful sedatives and mind-altering drugs to endure the grueling demand of their battlefield duties. The observers rigorously refine their recitation of the words of God, endowing them with the authority to command both allies and enemies alike. Their specially crafted helmets enhance the holy word's power, compelling any creature to obey their commands, if only briefly. Even the
So, real quick too, a prophet just means inspired of God or speaking the word of God, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they're future tellers and stuff like that. It just means they're inspired by God, right? And women, by the way, can be prophets. Miriam, Aaron's sister, was a prophetess, and so was Deborah. And Deborah was the leader of Israel and commanded the armies when they were under a lot of oppression. So, don't count the ladies out, fellas, is what I'm trying to say.
smallest lapse in their focus can cause them to lose the voice of God that guides them, leaving them as vulnerable as any ordinary soldier. As the war against hell raged on, the faithful encountered a nigh impossible problem to solve. Due to the supernatural power of the gate to hell, the vast majority of individuals could not approach it, meaning that the faithful could not take the fight against hell to hell itself. In order to combat this, the church began a secret program, intended to create warriors of such physical prowess and internal holiness that they could undertake missions within the very depths of hell. This program was named the Paladin Program, creating members of the Mentalist Order which are imbued with the blood from the Metachrist program. Although we aren't entirely sure what the Metachrist is, communicants are described as having consumed the cloned flesh and blood of Jesus Christ, and therefore it's safe to assume that a Metachrist is a clone of Jesus. Paladins dwell in hidden cells within a secretive wing of Castle Sant'Angelo until the Council of Saints summons them for battle. When their time arrives, they leave their isolation, proceed to the arming chamber, and kneel on the mosaic of the militant Christ the Lion. There, they are equipped and armored by blinded and gelded serfs to prevent any.
Alright, I gotta bring this one up. I always bring it up for the Space Marines and Warhammer 40k, but anyways. Zechariah 10:5. And they shall be as mighty men, which tread down their enemies in the mire of the streets in battle. And they shall fight, because the Lord is with them, and the riders on the horses shall be confounded. Sorry.
Any impure gaze or desire.
I just had to bring that one up.
After being briefed on their mission by one of the cardinal generals, they receive the last rites in advance, as no task is more perilous than war within Gehenna itself. Initially, there were 12 paladins, but only 9.
Which is the lake of fire. Jesus likens to people being thrown in the lake of fire as Gehenna, because Gehenna is where you burnt the trash, basically, is what Gehenna was.
9 survive today. 2 have perished in battle, and rumors suggest that 1 may have turned coat, though the church fiercely refutes such claims under penalty of death. Despite relentless attempts, the Holy Mentalist,
which is where the beast, Satan, and all the false prophet go and all that, so.
Order has failed to create a single new paladin in 3 centuries. Each of the 9 circles of hell presents a unique and hazardous environment, ranging from toxic fumes and intense heat to frigid temperatures far below freezing, necessitating specialized armor for each circle. When a paladin ventures into the gates of hell, they face the grim reality of succeeding alone or perishing, since no one will be coming in to assist them. Because of these risks, paladins are deployed on direct orders from the Council of Saints and are used with extreme caution. Nice. Lieutenants lead small squads or platoons within New Antioch's forces. Lieutenants are often the scions of noble families, or have achieved their rank through exceptional skills on the battlefield. Beyond their...
The cannon fodder. You go into that gate, and you go get them. Good job, we got you. On this side. Not on that side, but on this side. But we're cheering for you. Sorry.
Their leadership duties, lieutenants are also tasked with procuring new weapons, equipment, and supplies for their units, which often involve scavenging from the battlefields of no man's land or raiding local settlements. A sacred warrior who tends to the spiritual needs of the soldiers in the unit, the cleric recites uplifting battle prayers and can perform miracles like healing or striking down foes. The cleric typically carries a portable shrine on his back, symbolizing his devotion to the company's patron, whether it be one of their homeland saints, a powerful archangel, or the Lord himself. These
that is kind of cool. It's almost like the Saints, of course, in Warhammer 40k. So... And I guess I should bring that up too. Hold on a second. What a saint actually is.
Followers of the church practice ritual blindness as an act of devotion to God, relying solely on their faith to combat the church's enemies. During the siege of St. Lux, there were tales of a sniper priest who, despite his blindness, managed to eliminate a target from a distance of 3 miles.
Dang.
Standard troops of New Antioch, these brave men and women have undergone basic training and pledge allegiance to the Duke of New Antioch. While they may not possess the advanced combat skills of elite forces, their sheer numbers and diverse array of weaponry compensate for their lack of specialized training. Assault troops who excel in breaching enemy defenses, specializing in swift, aggressive attacks and close quarters combat. They are adept at integrating various combat techniques and using fire team strategies effectively. Combat engineers focus on
Okay. Sorry, my tablet was trying to find the internet for a second. So, Revelation 14:12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and that are in the faith of Jesus. And what do you hear a lot in the church today? That those commandments of God are done away with? Doesn't sound like it, does it? Now, they don't get you into heaven, but we keep them because we love God, right? And we don't want to, cheat on our spouse, lie, steal, you know what I mean? Not covet your neighbor's goods. We don't want to have any idols, right? But Jesus sums it up to, for this is the whole of the law and the prophets, that you love God and you treat others the way you want to be treated. It's as simple as that, right? But yet we're told that those are done away with. But anyways, I digress. The only things that were done away with was the Levitical system, right? And Jesus paid the price for sin, right? So we no longer have to, take on the punishments of that or whatever, right? So there you go.
demolishing bunkers, locating minefields, and constructing battlefield positions. They are equipped with close-range weapons and reinforced steel armor. Despite the high casualty rate within their ranks, they view it as a privilege to serve and sacrifice for New Antioch and the church. These heavily armored soldiers
It's always the engineers that get the crappy end of the deal. We love you, engineers.
are tasked with handling the company's heavy weaponry. Chosen from the elite ranks, they undergo substantial chemical enhancements to boost their combat capabilities. The Sisters of St. Cosmas are an elite medical unit with advanced training, specializing in providing first aid and performing surgeries directly on the front lines of the Great War. The Sisters pledge a modern version of the Hippocratic Oath, which requires them to assist all injured soldiers of the faith.
Okay, so this comes straight from Jesus. John 14. Well, get the right one here. Okay, 14 and 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. Who is Jesus? God, right? Christians will say, yeah, Jesus is God, right? But then when it gets to that, oh, those are Jesus's commandments. So now you're separating them? And I'll bring up another one here.
Regardless of the severity of their condition. Equipped with a combat surgical knife that also functions as a misericordia, a tool historically used by battlefield medics or surgeons to quickly and humanely end the suffering of those who are beyond saving. They are skilled in both saving lives and ending them, for those found wounded in no man's land. They carry medical kits stocked with a wide range of battlefield medication.
Hey man, if you gotta learn how to, or if you learn how to save a life, you'll definitely know how to end one. But anyways, all right, I guess I should bring this up. 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. That's the New Testament, by the way. But there you go.
Effective at alleviating even the most severe pain and helping soldiers return to the battlefield.
The war bands.
The Papal States forces, which answer to the Supreme Pontiff of Rome rather than the Duke of New Antioch, are occasionally sent to the front lines for specialized missions, such as tracking down and neutralizing high-profile heretic leaders or retrieving spiritually significant artifacts. They are commanded by warrior monks and priests chosen personally by the Pope. What we know in our world as Ireland,
Figures.
Ire is a bastion of the church and a staunch
Ireland.
adversary of the forces of hell due to relentless and destructive raids by the heretic navy. The Emerald Isle has suffered from famine, been devastated by the Black Grail, and faced a full-scale invasion targeting the renowned House of Manuscripts, which houses many sacred texts. After enduring a century of fierce battles against the invaders, the warriors of Ire have become experts in guerrilla warfare.
I wouldn't mind the Gewehr, the German gun or whatever. I think it was the one that it was like a semi-automatic. I think it was called. But that one, I wouldn't mind having that. I always loved using that in Call of Duty, or there's another one I played all the time. But anyways,
The elite warrior hunters of Ire are often viewed as godless troublemakers, but their skills as skirmishers make them valuable recruits for warbands that journey to New Antioch to combat the enemy. These warriors display grisly trophies, such as the skulls of their fallen foes, in a manner reminiscent of their pagan forebears, much to the disdain of the church. When the poet King O'Connor sends his renowned rangers to support the Principality of New Antioch in lieu of paying the
well, in Ireland they definitely had a lot of druid activity, and the Wodes, I think that's what their name was, but they were basically druids. But so yeah, and the druids would do that, at least the warrior ones.
annual tithe to Vienna, the Duke eagerly accepts these formidable fighters in their place. When there is a requirement to neutralize a formidable
If they were talking about Ireland, for some reason I heard Ireland there, so I definitely could have been wrong there. I'll have to go back and make sure.
enemy stronghold, or launch an assault on a particularly formidable defensive line of trenches, the Duke of Antioch frequently relies on the renowned shock troopers units from the Free State of Prussia. These elite forces are frequently tasked with missions from the princes of the church or the high command of New Antioch. Admission to this elite unit is determined entirely by merit. Applicants must be exceptional athletes, under the age of 25, unmarried, and have demonstrated remarkable aggression on the battlefield. Shock troopers have the highest casualty rate of all Prussian soldiers.
Yeah, I'd
These
say
new
so.
recruits swear the following oath: to each his own, to me, death. Originating from the Scottish Highlands, these individuals come to New
Yay.
Antioch seeking glory, absolution for their sins, valuable loot, and direct combat with devil worshippers. The Heretic submarine fleet persistently attacks the kingdom's shores, abducting their young to be sacrificed at the dark altars of the archdevils.
Oh, that's a cool sword.
Fueling a profound
shield.
animosity towards the forces of hell, their British neighbors' fleet and its renowned mobile fortresses are focused on defending their own coasts, and this leads to friction and resentment from their northern neighbors.
Figures, huh? That always happens. Darn northern neighbors.
It is a stark truth that a third of humanity has bowed down to the idols of hell. The primary earthly military force of Satan, the heretic legions,
Looks like
is composed
Balrog.
of individuals drawn from these condemned souls. Those who have witnessed the war-torn lands inhabited by the heretic legion describe the grand idols of the golden calf and the fervent people who bow before them, offering themselves as sacrifices in violent rituals. In their cities, towering structures of iron and black stone stretch down into deep pits.
I'm going to show you a verse in Enoch where, in my opinion, is where human sacrifice comes from.
Inside, sacrificial altars are set up where captives endure prolonged suffering over days and weeks with harsh tools made from dark, infernal materials. Majestic cathedrals dedicated to the princes of hell are supported by massive volcanic arches, while
Okay, and this is also where kind of the origin of demons come from as well. Now, demons, I'll get into this. Fallen angels, I guess you could say, in the essence of the word, are evil spirits, right? But the demons that we think of, these weird looking guys, tall and whatevers, comes from this. I'll show you. At least this first part here. There's a second part to it I want to get into. So this is 1 Enoch chapter 7. And when men could know, okay, so this is the Genesis 6 stuff right here. Okay, we'll just go from 1 to 4. So, and all others together with them took unto them wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go unto them and defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. Now, these guys here, in my opinion, are the Titans, right? The clash of the Titans, which I'll show you where that comes from too. But anyways, and when men could no longer, who consumed all the acquisitions of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against the birds. Now they're starting to create, in Jasher 4, it says that men started, after this, the Genesis 6 stuff, they were also taught how to mix one species with another. So they're doing genetic manipulation. It says there in Jasher 4, chapter 4, verse 18, I believe it is. But anyways, so they began to sin against the birds, the beasts, the reptiles, and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and to drink the red mist. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. So that's the beginning of that. And I'll bring up the demons here in a second.
All the condemned are displayed on inverted crosses. Becoming part of the army of damnation is a formidable challenge. To secure a spot among the heretic legions, one must undertake a journey to the gates of hell. From even a great distance, the intense fiery heat radiating from this immense structure scorches both body and soul. Those who reach the vicinity of hell's maw are deemed worthy and are admitted into the legions. They pledge unyielding oaths that bind them to the darkness forever, their bodies marked with the devil's sigil, signifying their eternal allegiance. Some individuals push beyond the gate. Their flesh ignites in the process, never to heal, but those with the darkest souls can enter the very inferno itself. These anointed are held in the highest regard within the legions. They are the epitome of savage ferocity, individuals of immense strength and unwavering commitment.
Okay. And now the giants, who are produced from the spirits of flesh, from spirits and flesh. So these angels, like the angels are the ones in Genesis 6 mating with women. The sons of God, and they're also called the sons of God in Job, right? When they come with Satan, it says, and the sons of God came unto man, and Satan came with them, right? So when it says sons of God, these are angels. And now the giants who produce from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth. And these encompass those weird looking bird, those griffins and, these hybrids of animals and stuff, because God said, let a horse mate with a horse, right? Not a horse with a man and vice versa. Called evil spirits on the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they were born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, heaven shall be their dwelling, but as the spirits of earth, which were upon the earth, on the earth shall be their dwelling. Okay. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger. This is where this stuff comes from. And thirst, and cause offenses, or at least in my opinion. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. As the saying goes, they hate us because they ain't us, right? Is what is going on. Okay.
Having traversed
Sorry
the
that took
cursed
long.
path of the shores of the lake of eternal flame, where the damned suffer endlessly, the anointed return forever marked by the abyssal flames. Their scorched and blackened flesh remains permanently damaged, but in return they are allowed to don heavy Gehenna armor and gain the strength to wield weapons that would be impossible for an average man to wield. Although the majority of the heretic legions consist of mortal humans, hell frequently dispatches its own repugnant offspring to bolster the ranks of these human soldiers. In this accursed battlefield, mortals and abominations advance together, united by the torment of their damnation.
Yay. Not.
Making up the majority of the heretic army, heretic troopers have seen the gates of hell and survived, damning them for all eternity. Heavily armored and protected assault troopers, the anointed heavy infantry have scorched and blistered skin from their ritual journeys to hell and back.
Almost like the salamanders. But that is kind of cool how they put that in there, I think. I like that.
Wolf assault beasts charge through the miles of barbed wire to clear paths for the heretic infantry.
Would you kiss that? No.
infantry.
No.
Their designed head is built
Not
to slice
one
through the
iota
obstacles
of a second
effortlessly.
would I do that.
Artillery witches roam the battlefields, launching munitions created in the death factories of Hell's third circle. They are entirely silent, and their faces have never been seen, with speculation that they may not even be alive. They can summon an endless supply of infernal bombs from a self-conjured portal to Hell. From a young age, a chosen few heretic youths are sent beyond the gates of Hell to be trained as death commandos. Residing in the seventh circle of the Inferno, they receive instructions in the lethal arts of assassination from the souls of history's most notorious killers whom are trapped in Hell. Additionally, they are taught martial skills by the elite guards of Archdevil Baelith, and their Tartarus claws are drenched in lethal poison from the waters of the River Styx. At the conclusion of their training, the tongues of the death commandos are—
Okay, I should say this. Job, or first Enoch, I should say, or Enoch, is endorsed in Jude 1:14-16, and it pulls straight from the first part of, the first chapter of Enoch. So, I should have brought that up. I apologize. But anyways, right here. And Enoch, also the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and convince all that are ungodly among them, that are with their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed. This is pulled straight from the book of Enoch. You can go read it yourself. So I do want to get that out there, that it is endorsed by the Bible a couple of times.
are ceremonially removed, that they may never share the tortures they've endured. Instead of speaking, they use a sophisticated system of cryptic hand signals to communicate with one another. Among the most notorious death commandos are Cain, the man who committed the first murder by killing his brother Abel, Barabbas, the murderer whom a crowd chose to free over Jesus Christ before the Lord's crucifixion, and Haman, the man who attempted to have all of the Jews in the Persian Empire killed before he was stopped by Queen Esther. It is unknown if the three men in the lore are exactly the same as their biblical namesakes. These three men, in the year of our Lord 1890—
No, because if I remember right, Barabbas, right, became a believer, I do believe, down the road. But here, let me look that up.
94 executed the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Aliyah, and the Holy Roman Emperor in a coordinated strike. This caused chaos within the church forces and enabled the legions to swiftly advance across the Levant and Europe. Due to the YouTube terms of service, I won't be going over the choristers. If you'd like to know more, you may look them up in the lore primer in the comments. Once you read up on them, you'll understand why I didn't include them in this video. The leaders of the Heretic army's warbands, the Heretic priest is one who wields various dark magics, invoking terrifying demons and creatures through goetic spells. Typically, they are bound to a demon lord in hell. The profane gospels they chant instill such fear in church forces that they can cause physical damage to the faithful.
I was wrong on that. Don't listen to me. I knew something wasn't right there. Yeah, no. The Bible doesn't provide details on Barabbas' life, so I don't. Stupid me.
The Heretic fleet functions as a semi-autonomous force, led by its high captain and various admirals. The Heretics maintain their own marine infantry, which frequently operates in small groups to penetrate deep into enemy territory and carry out hit-and-run missions. They are constantly searching for captives, loot, intelligence, supplies, rare artifacts, and opportunities to showcase their cruelty and savagery. One of the most fascinating units in the Trench Crusade universe, Trench Ghosts are the results of heretic troopers dying on sacred ground or in the presence of an untainted holy relic, causing them—
Sorry about that. But I would definitely rock one of these horses. Hey, nobody would touch you. At least in today's day and age.
to become ensnared between realms. Belonging to neither heaven or hell, these Trench Ghosts become undead, attacking both the faithful and heretics alike while following orders that no living being can hear. Their faces are obscured by gas masks that serve no purpose for them anymore, as their bodies and minds are condemned to endure the horrors of war forever. Legends speak of numerous Trench Ghost warbands that haunt no man's land, but the most renowned are known as the Ghosts of Tannenberg. As the faithful wage war against the forces of hell, some individuals find themselves touched by heaven itself, gifted visions and revelations. Sisters of the Holy Orders, marked by stigmata, wield both sword and cross as guided by angels, as others seeking to atone for their sins aim to drag as many followers of the devil as possible with them into the afterlife. Thus, trench pilgrim processions have formed containing the deranged and the wounded, the divinely touched and the guilt-ridden. These disorganized groups follow the prophets of...
So there is undead in the Bible. So I want to get this out real quick. So you hear the Raphaim, right? And I'm sorry for my channel subscribers who's heard this a million times. But Rapha, or the Raphaim, were, Og of Bashan was the last of the Raphaim, right? Okay. So definition, a giant, Raphaim, or Rapha, from Rapha in the sense of invigorating a giant. Giant, Raphaim. Now let's go to the root word. To heal, or Rapha. To cure, or to heal, to cure, to restore, to mend, to cure. A primitive root properly to mend, to cure, to heal, physician, repair, and thoroughly, or thoroughly make whole. So there you go. And also, I'll bring up another verse.
The Lord to the front lines, fighting with unmatched fervor. Most of the pilgrims are individuals with little military training, but once they don the iron capirote of a trench pilgrim, they can confront even the most fearsome demons. Death does not always end their mission either. Occasionally, the seventh Metachrist may judge a fallen pilgrim as worthy and resurrect them as martyr penitents, beings which exist between heaven and earth and are capable of fighting without feeling pain.
Okay. So Job 26:5. Dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. So for the new people, very interesting. Wonder why you don't hear this stuff in the mainstream church.
Each procession maintains its own unique
think it'd be
characteristics.
nice to know.
The Path of Pious Revenge, dedicated to Saint Olga, employs flamethrowers, incendiary grenades, and burning ammunition. The Pilgrims of the Iron Path, who follow Saint Rita of Cassia, arm themselves with hammers, mauls, maces, and cudgels, and drive nails into their own heads to honor their saint. The Theban Legion of Rome, devoted to Saint Maurice, engages in combat with swords and other blades.
Nice.
A formidable leader, war prophets are inspired by visions of Armageddon. Their sermons and prophecies motivate the pilgrims to move from one battlefield to another.
I think I would like to be a paladin. I like the paladins.
Aiming to counter the forces of Satan and achieve martyrdom through combat. Assigned with instilling the fear of God among the troops, castigators are officers of orthodoxy, whom ensure that the soldiers remain righteous while disciplining those who stray. They are shielded by their steadfast faith and the saints they venerate. Communicants are individuals who have ingested the flesh and blood of a Metachrist, empowering themselves with the divine essence, causing them to increase in size and for their wounds to begin healing miraculously. Even though they are blinded, their vision is remarkably enhanced, with blessed crosses nailed through their eyes to signify this blessing. On the battlefield, they serve as line breakers and protectors for prophets and castigators. A sacred warrior of the trenches, a trench pilgrim believes it is his spiritual duty to journey to holy battlefields and combat the heretic legions. Either captured foes of the true faith or volunteer sinners, ecclesiastic prisoners are chained individuals who advance through the Great War with the fervent hope that their sacrificial charge will somehow purify their corrupted souls. They charge in with an explosive device to bring forth an explosive martyrdom, although some manage to...
Yeah, I better... oh, never mind. Yeah.
survive the blast
I don't want to
and
get in trouble
continue
with
the
that
battle. The stigmatic nuns are devoted holy sisters who bear the stigmata, wounds identical to those of the third Metachrist whom they
Big
revere.
old beaties.
Stigmatas are physical wounds, scars, and pain that manifest in places mirroring the crucifixion wounds of Jesus Christ, with the most well-documented stigmatic of our world being that of Saint Padre Pio. The stigmatic nuns excel in close combat, and their devotion to suffering turns their wounds into a source of power beyond that of ordinary humans. They venture across no man's land without fear, praying for wounds that honor the Redeemer, which then transform them into instruments of divine vengeance. A massive suit of armor, powered by diesel and faith, Shrine anchorites are towering metal giants, standing about 12 to 15 feet tall, serving as formidable war altars, nearly impervious to damage. Inside, the anchorite is lined with spikes and barbed hooks, keeping the monk pilot in a continual state of suffering, which they embrace to mirror the pain of their lord. The outside is adorned with religious icons, sacred relics, and prayer scrolls.
I wonder how many Christians would last that are today's day and age. Oh boy.
All in line with the customs of the pilgrim sect to which the anchorite is dedicated. Hundreds of these battle machines were created under St. Methodius' supervision, but the knowledge of their creation has been lost since the monastery was ruined by a death commando attack. Upon the passing of the monk or the nun whom pilots the anchorite, whether by battle or by age, the remains are carefully collected and preserved in reliquaries attached to the anchorite, turning each of these war machines into a tribute to its enduring history of combat against the forces of hell. Each anchorite wields an adamantine Catherine wheel and a bone.
And to be honest, I probably wouldn't last that much either. So I want to get that out there as well.
Breaker mace to unleash divine wrath upon sinners, heretics, and apostates. As an act of devotion and penance, it is a widespread tradition for trench pilgrims or stigmatic nuns to be broken by the wheel and spend their final battle mounted upon it. This act symbolizes their readiness to endure suffering for their sins and is believed to provide spiritual protection to the anchorite. Although the church disapproves of this practice, pilgrims eagerly gather around their anchorites.
Is that a shark? I mean, I see the legs, but what is that? For some reason I just keep thinking a shark, but that's definitely not a shark, but looks like something in the shape of a shark though.
Before any battle, hoping to earn the privilege of dying on the wheel.
Ooh.
Trench pilgrims from the procession of the Sacred Affliction are renowned for their ability in close quarters combat. Their armor is adorned with religious icons and their shields display images of the saints which are resistant to machine gun fire. They carry millstones on their backs, which they use to bind around the neck of sinners before submerging them in the mud and blood of no man's land. They also do not.
So when like the Bible talks about a yoke, right? It was a necklace like that, right? And that was basically what a yoke. It's not talking about egg yolk or anything like that, right? It's just talking about this yoke that was around your neck.
Not cover their faces, believing that faith alone is sufficient to face the terrors of hell. The cavalcade of the 10th plague, named after the final plague in the book of Exodus which brought about the death of Egypt's firstborn sons, traditionally sacrifices lambs before engaging in battle, using its blood to anoint themselves as a means of protecting against divine wrath. Devoutly adhering to the traditional interpretation of the holy texts, they reject the new doctrines introduced by the Metachrist. Additionally, they capture communicants from other processions and compel them to fight for them as penance for being born out of sin.
Jeez. The cult of the Black Grail.
Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, is distinct from other Hell Lords who primarily operate through their mortal agents.
He's got 3
when he rises to dominance
tentacles.
in the fierce conflicts among the Archfiends, he unleashes his most lethal curse, the Black Grail. The Black Grail harbors a relentless enmity towards all living things, infecting nearly all biological material and causing it to erupt with tumors and boils. It annihilates the body, while leaving the mind intact to endure the agony. Despite intense efforts by the church's scientist priests and the Sultanate's alchemists.
What is interesting, I actually did a dark type video before this, but in there I talked about, how the mark of the beast, they get these sores and stuff like that. So, very interesting. I'm not saying it's that or whatever, but it is interesting.
To find a cure for this vile disease, they have so far been unsuccessful.
Because the mark of the beast will pretty much probably change your whole DNA. Because it says the beast will sit in the temple of God and think he is, or the temple of God. Anyways, but it says he will sit in the temple of God, right? Well, what does the New Testament say? It says don't you know that you, or Paul, right, Paul, I should say, says, that, don't you know that you are the temple of God? And that the Spirit of God lives in you? I'll have to look what verse that is up, because I'm terrible at that. But, anyways. So it's going to change your whole DNA to where you're connected to Him, right, and not God. So, interesting.
The only known remedy is to incinerate the infected settlements with specially designed flamethrower tanks that use consecrated oil as fuel. If this method is not employed, infected bodies of humans, horses, dogs, insects, and various animals rise again, driven by a demonic force to carry out Beelzebub's will, forming warbands to seek out and infect other life forms, and collect valuable items and gruesome trophies, which they present at the feet of Beelzebub's idols. Leading these warbands are the Knights of the Order of the Fly, degenerate individuals that willingly accept the Black Grail and whose devotion is deemed adequate by Beelzebub. In return, they receive weapons, armor, and gear tainted by the Archfiend's influence, in exchange for sacrifices made at the altars of Beelzebub.
They even kind of have that fly look, kind of, sort of. That is cool. Cult of the Black Grail units.
The Black Grail's malevolent influence emanates from Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies. It propagates through the insects he spawned in the 7th layer of Hell, unleashing a deluge of his vile essence through demonic.
Oh, dang. So that gun is completely connected to him. Huh. That is actually kind of cool. Or unless it's just, Never mind. I don't know. I can't tell if that's connected or not. It looks like it. Anyways.
Pests, virulent infections, tainted insects, plagues, and other corruptions that desecrate both body and soul. Among those unfortunate enough to fall under the Black Grail's sway, some are tragically transformed into grotesque winged insects composed of bloated flesh through a harrowing fusion with hellflies. This agonizing transformation renders them heralds of Beelzebub, serving as winged scouts for the Order of the Fly. Heralds stand as the vanguards for the Black Grail, their resonant wing buzz instilling profound terror in their adversaries, eroding their concentration and resolve. They wield ancient weapons,
Hercules, 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 Hercules,
teeming with demonic worms that disseminate disease. Each tainted bullet possesses a sinister sentience, seeking out any fissure in the enemy's armor in order to penetrate the nervous system and infect its target. There are some individuals whom, upon the arrival of the Black Grail, called out to Beelzebub, hoping that the Lord of Flies will spare them if they offer worship and servitude. These individuals' pleas are ignored. However, a handful of mortals, extremely rare, truly embrace Beelzebub's vision of a world ending in a rotting, parasite-infested mass, perpetually plagued by the Black Grail's curse. Among these twisted souls, the most depraved are selected to join the ranks of the unholy Order of the Fly. Those souls are known as Plague Knights. Plague Knights rise through the Order of the Fly by transforming as many living beings as they can, which increases their rank and earns them more favor from Beelzebub. Of the most renowned Plague Knights, there exists a dozen, a number which exists in mockery of the Church's paladins, and they are honored as the Fly's top champions. They live in Ekron, Beelzebub's city, a horrifying place that even heretic lords stay away from. Most individuals who are infected with the Black Grail are turned into Grail thralls, joining the vast army of
Okay, real quick. So this is Nergal. In the King James Version, KJV Bible, Nergal refers to a Babylonian and Assyrian deity, specifically mentioned in 2 Kings 17:30. Okay. And I'll bring up
infected
what he
beings
is.
who are doomed to serve the Black Grail's nobles forever, suffering from numerous supernatural afflictions. A high-ranking official, the Lord of Tumors spreads decay and corruption to both allies and enemies. They enter a trance-like state to communicate with the Lord of Flies and are able to channel the...
Okay. Now, this guy very well could be Beelzebub, or the Lord of Flies, right? But I'm not 100% sure on that. Nergal was a Mesopotamian god worshipped through all periods of Mesopotamian history, from early dynastic to Neo-Babylonian times, with a few attestations indicating that his cult survived into the period of Achaemenid domination. Okay, he was primarily associated with war, ending, night. Oh, I lost my spot. And disease, and been described as the god of inflicted night, or death, I guess I can say it. But yeah, because I think I've been saying it throughout the whole video anyway, so.
The power of the seventh circle of hell.
Very
Only the
interesting.
most resilient human followers can endure the blessings of the Black Grail. Those who succeed are elevated to the Corpse Guard, serving as elite bodyguards to the Black Grail's nobility. Should they prove their worth through exceptional service, they may eventually be granted entry into the ranks of the infernal nobility. Decayed canine carcasses infested with maggots and flies, the Hounds of the Black Grail carry out the faction's unholy mission. Their
Why does that remind me of Resident Evil dogs? I don't know why. They don't even look like that.
purpose is to roam no man's land, spreading disease and plague in the name of their dark master. An amalgam is a huge mass composed of dozens of infected fallen warriors, insects, mammals, and other living creatures that fell victim to the Black Grail's torment.
We are Legion.
These monstrous forms move across the battlefield like immense, bloated heaps of disease. Following the opening of the gates of hell, a summons was issued to those who held the Islamic faith, leading to a mass migration across Europa, Asia.
Okay, I gotta bring this up. So Mark 5:9, and he asked him, "What is thy name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion." So this is hive mind talk right here. For we are many. Very interesting.
Asia and Africa over the following decades. Millions died along the way and at sea, as heretics attacked them like locusts consuming a field, devouring them and constructing dreadful monuments from their remains, preventing proper burial as prescribed in their holy texts. Once the survivors arrived, the great gates of Al-Quran were shut, and the great sultanate of the invincible iron wall of the two horns that pierce the sky was established. Despite the ongoing conflict to defend the walls of the Sultanate, which leads to new martyrs each day and night, the Sultanate thrives within the walls. From mosques of white marble and gold, the muezzins summon the faithful to pray for the success of the Sultan's army as it fights to safeguard their territory. Although there is an agreement between the Church and the Sultanate to fight together against the armies of hell, in the Sultanate, there is a profound resentment towards the infidels who unleashed Gog and Magog upon the world.
Yeah.
Military expeditions across the Great Iron Wall into no man's land are led by field officers known as Yuzbashi, chosen solely on merit rather than family background or wealth, often promoted from the Janissary Corps. Enhanced by Jabreen alchemical arts and mystic conditioning, Yuzbashi face enemies fearlessly, as their mental hardening makes them indifferent to pain and ruthless in battle. They are equipped with exceptional armor made of meteoric iron, silver-gilded carbines with alchemical ammunition, and killage swords inscribed with golden calligraphy. The most formidable carry hand cannons that also serve as halberds and may wear cloaks of their greatest kills, such as chimeras, to protect against Shaitan's power. Success earns Yuzbashi the Sultan's favor, bringing honor, Damascus steel weaponry, and access to Jabreen alchemical wonders. Hunting is also esteemed among their
And those chimeras, right? It's the same thing what I was talking about, where it says the birds, they sinned against the birds, the beasts, the reptiles, right? And also in Jasher 4, says that humans were doing that. They were mixing one species with the other. A chimera.
ranks, and artificial birds of prey and automaton hounds are used as effective weapons of war alongside the Yuzbashi. Alchemists are mystical practitioners of the Great Sultanate of the Iron Wall, trained in the House of Wisdom. Admission is open to anyone with necessary will and intellect, regardless of gender. Candidates face numerous trials on their way to mastery. Only after 7 years of rigorous study under the scrutiny of the High Alchemagi can an aspiring alchemist attempt the 3 trials required to achieve full membership in the Order. The first trial involves crafting a suit of the alchemist's armor adorned with the Seals of Solomon, allowing the alchemist to guard against even the grand mechanisms of hell. The second trial is to craft a Takwin servant, a homunculus imbued with artificial life and intelligence. This being will serve as a living tool for the alchemist. Though it resembles a small human, it can alter its body into a near-liquid state, allowing it to navigate alchemical chambers, even in extreme temperatures and dense poisonous fumes. Many aspirants fail at this stage, resulting in a malformed creature emerging from its golden celestial sphere, filled with...
Yeah, there ain't much biblical stuff you can bring on this one. But I do gotta stop it, so...
with animosity towards its creator. This monstrous failure will burrow into the alchemist's body, destroying their would-be master. The final test involves opening the third eye, which grants cosmic insight and the ability to perceive the fundamental elements of creation. Those who fail this test undergo horrific transformations. They are doomed...
I wonder if she has a boyfriend, and no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sticking his finger through it or something. Not the other thing. I ain't that sick. Or perverted.
To spend the remainder of their lives in torment, constantly screaming about the terrifying, unseen horrors now revealed to them. Out of compassion, alchemists who fail in this manner are often put down, though rumors persist of secret groups keeping these unfortunate beings alive for mysterious reasons. An alchemist who has successfully completed all 3 trials is a master of the arcane arts, able to control elements, craft mechanical devices, create artificial life, and develop weapons of immense destructive power. The Janissaries are the elite warriors of the Sultanate. They are made up of the young captured during raids beyond the wall and undergo stringent military training and indoctrination into elite warriors. Through spiritual and alchemical methods, their minds are subtly controlled and conditioned to ensure absolute and unyielding loyalty to the Sultan alone. Their physical traits are enhanced by powerful potions made by using the mystical Jabreen arts. Their elaborate armor is made from a special metal formula derived by the Sultanate's alchemists. They are safeguarded by strong talismans created by the blind thaumaturgists from the school of the meteoric omen. Equipped with Jezzail rifles, hand mortars, Yatagan blades, and a deep-seated devotion, the Janissaries are truly formidable adversaries. Deep beneath the golden gardens of Damascus, one can encounter the great alchemists of the Sultanate. Through the Jabreen technique known as Takwin, alchemists can generate artificial life, crafting a variety of bizarre and marvelous creatures and automatons. It is in this place and through these means that the Sultanate crafts the dreaded Lions of Jabir. Named after the fierce hunters of the plains, the Lions of Jabir can take on various forms. Each one is a unique creation.
I'll bring up Gesture 4 here so you guys can hear for yourselves.
Crafted according to the skills
because it has a lot to do with what he's talking about now.
And artistry of the Jabreen scientist who designed it. The arcane techniques used by the alchemists come from the studying of the forbidden books of Solomon, and many alchemists lose their lives when their experiments go awry. Designing the Lions of Jabir is a challenging task with numerous variables to manage, leading to frequent deformities. The most tragic cases are those lions who experience profound existential anguish as they come to understand the terrifying nature of their unnatural creation. The Lions of Jabir are formidable adversaries and serve as the frontline force of the Sultanate's army. The Sultan himself is protected by a personal retinue of 77 colossal Lions of Jabir.
Okay. So this is Jasher chapter 4, verse 18. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force. So this is Genesis 6 again, right? From their husbands according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air. And they taught the mixture of animals of one species with the other, in order wherewith to provoke the Lord. And God saw that the whole earth it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth, all men and animals. So that's why he had the flood. Okay.
Speed and ferocity are nearly unparalleled, and some possess unusual abilities due to their alchemical origins. Many are adorned with armor fused into their flesh, crafted with alchemical metals, inscribed with mysterious symbols, and elaborately decorated by the alchemists to conceal any flaws in their design. Ghost Wolves, the Secret Knives, and the Sultan's Wrath. These are the many names of the Sultanate assassins. a legendary order of mystic warriors feared for their esoteric skills and ruthlessness. Though the Ismaili sect of assassins is considered heretical by many within the Iron Wall, a pact with the Sultan ensures they often serve in the Sultanate's warbands. These assassins possess the ability to manipulate space and time through sacred rituals and potent hallucinogens, allowing them to appear in multiple places at once, strike with incredible speed, and retreat in a flash. Their enhancements through powerful chemicals and potions makes them significantly taller, faster, and stronger than ordinary men. They carry
And then all of a sudden, John Cena's music comes out, can't see me. Yeah, I know, my jokes suck.
out their duties in service to the Sultan, executing ritualistic holy murders of his enemies. While skilled with various weapons, they prefer poisoned blades crafted in Alamut. These blades are coated with supreme poison, known as the Milk of Manat or the Cup of Death, which guarantees death upon contact with unprotected skin. Young assassins are raised in deep underground chambers on a bitter, toxin-rich diet that increases their poison tolerance. Their blood is used to create poisonous iron, which is forged into deadly blades with enchantments. The Sultanate's vast lands allow for the raising of large armies from its many provinces, with one household in 20 required to equip a soldier, known as an azeb.
What is... Oh, that's a gun. Okay. I was like, what the heck is that? Okay. Or is it? There's no trigger. Huh. Is it a sword? Might be a sword. No. He's got I don't know.
An azeb, meaning unmarried, serve as light infantry on land and sea and defend the Great Iron Wall against heretic attacks. For elite missions beyond the wall, volunteers are called upon, drawn by the promise of fame and valuable loot. Azebs use varied weaponry due to their lack of access to the elite arms and armor reserved for higher-ranking troops. They commonly carry jazales with distinctive curved stocks, which are handmade and can be loaded with different types of ammunition, including rough bullets, iron nails, or alchemical silvers from the Great Iron Wall. Other weapons include curved daggers, scimitars, pistols, and sappers' tools. Azebs are seen as expendable, with their deaths considered a path to paradise. Despite the high casualty rate and the harsh conditions in the trenches, new recruits eagerly enlist for the chance to serve the Sultan, fight the enemy, and return home with glory and riches. The Sultan's sappers are tasked with operating the cannons of the Iron Wall. Due to the tendency of their powerful artillery to overheat, they are often marked by severe burns across their bodies. Many have perished while manning their guns, succumbing to the intense heat and smoke. Protected by the Iron Wall, the Sultanate has long excelled in artillery. However, the heavy siege guns on the wall are impractical for smaller expeditionary forces. In the year 821 of the Hijra, Sultan Bayezid III commissioned a new form of living field artillery.
For some reason that reminds me of, what was his name? Asmodon, right? In Diablo 3. He kind of reminds me of him.
The Jabreen scientists of the Royal Artillery House, after centuries of experimentation, created the Brazen Bull, or Boha, a powerful creature of war. The Brazen Bull, equipped with heavy artillery like flame cannons and volley guns, and blessed with holy blades, is designed to be an unstoppable force of nature. The Brazen Bull is covered in intricately adorned bronze armor with thrice-hardened scales, inscribed with protective talismans and blessings. On the battlefield, beyond the Iron Wall, it is a fearsome and imposing presence. Acting as a steadfast, unyielding shield and tower, it leads the Sultan.
So this is Genesis 6. And the sons of God saw that the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives, of which all they chose. We'll get into verse 4 here. So that was verse 2, this is verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So just like this guy here. But, of course, like in the other verse, they were doing all kinds of stuff.
Sultanate's forces. The Iron Sultanate and the assassin fortress of Alamut have a pact where the Sultan receives the services of the highly skilled assassins in exchange for Alamut's autonomy. While the assassins are known for their work with the Sultanate's forces, they also conduct secretive missions in no man's land. Led by Rashid al-Din Sinan, the ruler of Alamut, these missions are assigned through dreams rather than direct communication. The secretive warbands, called Fidei, undertake these covert operations with a master assassin and 2 experienced members, accompanied by trainee acolytes. The purpose of these missions remains unknown. Alamut also houses a renegade sect of Ismaili dervishes, warrior monks who join these missions as a form of piety and payment for their shelter.
Hey, gotta do what you gotta do. Court of the Seven-Headed
The
Serpent.
court's hierarchy is in constant flux, with only Mammon maintaining near continuous control over the position of greed throughout the entire Great War. Other positions, however, have been filled by a dizzying array of other high-ranking infernal nobles, each rising and falling in power. This chaotic cycle of fleeting glory and inevitable ruin mirrors the shifts in power among their mortal followers on Earth. The War Council operates by majority vote, often with razor-thin margins, and it doesn't take much for an ambitious prince or princess.
All right. I probably should bring up the Enoch verse of this too. But so Revelation 17:10, you got these so there are 7 kings, so the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the women sit. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So this beast has the same authority as these 7 kings, right? He's the 8th one, but anyways, I'll show you where I'm getting to that, because these, the 7 chief ones, Enoch calls them. See, these guys are the top guys, right? And Satan's one of them, right? But there's 5 mentioned in the book of Enoch, right? And 2 mentioned in the Bible, which is Satan and the Assyrian. Now, Satan is the top dog, right? But it is interesting how they bring up the 7-headed thing right here. Because, I'll bring up the Enoch one. So we'll listen to this.
Of hell to make enough enemies to be deposed. Once fallen, they must start their rise from the bottom, tormented by the mockery of their rivals. Numerous envious rivals scheme against the heads of the serpent, eager to usurp them and claim the power and prestige of such high positions. The strength of the demon lords often fluctuates depending on how many mortal followers they can corrupt, leading to constant shifts in which demon lords are able to wear one of the 7-headed serpent crowns. Though Beelzebub is by far the most powerful devil of gluttony, he rejects his rightful place at the court, choosing instead to wage his war against creation through the Black Grail. As a result, his seat on the hungry throne remains vacant, allowing lesser demons to compete for the honor of claiming it. At the court's command, Hell's warbands assemble at the Hellgate and march forth to ravage the mortal world. Yoke fiends rally under the banners of their commanders and sorcerers. The Hell Knights, their broken forms bound in armor, rise from their fiery tombs, where they are kept crushed beneath massive basalt slabs when not in battle. Pit locusts lead the charge, their wings clattering as they announce the court's arrival, their venomous stings leaving wounds that cannot be healed. Occasionally, when the ominous signs in Hell's sky align,
there's those the locusts with men's faces and hair like women. It's probably what they would pretty much look like. They're not helicopters, right? These are actual entities, and we just saw what they were doing, right? Well, those locusts in the Bible are a product of that, right? So, anyways, let me get to verse 69.
A hunter of the left-hand path will join the warband, marking their mission with a sense of dread and honor. During these times, eerie triumphant music echoes from unseen sources, for participating in such hunts is considered a great privilege. Before most warbands.
Alright, so here's the chief ones. And these are the chiefs of their angels and their names, and the chief ones over hundreds and over 50s and over 10s. The name of the first is Jaquan. The second is Aspiel. Now I'm just giving you these in numbered order here, but and the third was named Gadriel. And the fourth was named Penume. Where's the fifth? And the fifth was named Casdia. Now we get into here what he did. It says, and the son, where is it? and the bites of the serpent, and the oath which showed the Holy Ones. Oh, and the smitings that befall through noontide, and the son of the serpent. So the son of the serpent is mentioned last. Well, just like in that Revelation verse, the beast is mentioned last. He's of the seven, but is the eighth. Very interesting.
And the yoke fiends drive human slave soldiers known as the Wretched, who have no demon blood. These poor souls are
Man,
used
this is
as
gonna be a
disposable
long
shock
video.
troops or tortured to fuel the dark magic of the court's sorcerers. They are captured during hunts, sold in heretic domains, or unfortunate enough to cross into the thin places where the borders of the world are weak. Their minds are shattered by the horrors of damnation they witness while still alive. Desperate to escape a fate far worse than death, they will clutch at any hope. If a wretch manages to defeat a powerful opponent, the law of hell is clear. They earn their freedom.
Yikes.
In remembrance of the first rebellion when war broke out in heaven and the blood of angels stained the sky. Many of the court's warriors possess goetic spells, abilities that harness the suffering of mortals as a source of spiritual energy to unleash the reality-altering powers of the demons. As God's plan for the universe is disrupted and twisted, infernal sorcerers and demonic beings can tap into the primordial energy released from creation to warp reality. However, demons must act swiftly, for God's omnipotence will soon reassert itself, closing the window for them to reshape the world. This creates a constant and escalating need for human sacrifices, pain, and unrelenting warfare to fuel their supernatural abilities.
Yeah, I could say so. Yeah, the court of the seven-headed serpent. Yeah, we
When the
just
gate of
talked
hell
about
was
that.
opened by the ultimate heresy of the Templars, the warbands of the court surged forth, sweeping through the Levant long before the first heretic legion was formed. They struck down the peoples of the Middle East, Asia, and Europa, obliterating mortal armies with ease like fire consuming dry straw. Only at Antioch and the Iron Wall were they finally stopped, though at great cost. In their wake, countless men and women, awestruck by even the lesser servants of hell, fell to their knees and worshipped the court as gods. Of those worshippers, the most wicked hearts were spared, becoming the first heretics. Over time, the numbers grew into the millions, filling the cities and domains now cloaked in the shadow of the Hellgate. The court's foot soldiers, being both of the material world and the spirit realm, can march to war on earth without fear of
It's a beautiful peacock. Look at that.
divine retribution,
Is that the
as they do not
peacocking?
violate the covenant of hell. The court also keeps the size of these warbands in check, ensuring that most of the suffering and death in the Great War falls upon mortals.
I'll keep
This
my.
serves two purposes: to defy
I'll be quiet on that one.
God and to strengthen the devil's own power. The more humans are corrupted and slain in the rebellion, the more God's plan is disrupted, allowing the power of the devils to grow. The court's mission against the faithful do not follow the predictable logic of a mortal commander. A powerful praetor might attack a militarily insignificant village just to kill a newborn who would one day become a saint, betray their own followers by suddenly assaulting an unsuspecting heretic settlement, or even clash with a rival warband from another head of the serpent. Praetors are demonic commanders and magistrates who oversee a small portion of the domain of a powerful archdevil or demon lord. Each praetor commands small bands of hell's denizens, raised from the ever-changing realms of the infernal depths, at the will of their liege. Yoke devils rally under their command, and hell knights, bound to unquestioning obedience, kneel before these field commanders of hell. Sorcerers take many forms, altering their bodies to enhance their ability to cast powerful spells. Some are endowed with multiple arms, others with multiple heads, or a variety of horrific modifications.
It's a Shivite. But a lot of stuff was going on back then, man. I know this is not talk about this, but anyways. At least in my opinion. I
Some
should say.
self-inflicted, others imposed by force, based on the desires of their archdevil masters and the high sorcerers guiding their goetic strategy. A sorcerer's feet do not touch the ground, a lingering trace of their angelic origins. Instead, they float across no man's land, chanting the cruel gospel of hell as they advance. Their dark wisdom and cunning make them equally adept at leading one of the court's warbands or advising a praetor as they march into the mortal realm. The hunters of the court of the seven-headed serpent are devoted to the left-hand path. They roam the primordial wilds of hell, hunting fearsome beasts while practicing dark magics and divination. Using the still-beating hearts and entrails of their living prey, they interpret omens and portents to guide their infernal masters. The silent battalions of hell, summoned to serve when the court of seven-headed serpent seeks sport, are composed of hell knights. Their ever-burning banners stream as they march.
Yeah, guys, there ain't much biblical stuff on that, though. But I do gotta pause it, of course. So, how you guys doing?
To war, carrying out the bidding of their masters. A yoke fiend stands 7 to 8 feet tall, its body a mass of trembling fat and muscle, branded by its masters and carved by the hell priests to mark it as the property of greater demons.
Them can cut through anything, man. Look at those.
Possesses bestial traits such as the horns and hooves of cattle or goats, and ape-like limbs with bones of great density. Yoke fiends loathe seeing their own reflection, for deep down they know the beauty and glory they have lost. These unfortunate souls have no trace of demon blood. They are used as disposable shock troopers or tortured to fuel the goetic magic of the sorcerers and other practitioners of dark arts. If a wretch manages to defeat a powerful foe, the law of hell is clear. The mortal earns their freedom. Pit locusts are horrifying, horse-sized, winged and armored creatures with grotesque human-like faces. They fight using razor-sharp blades attached to their limbs and venomous stingers, making them deadly foes. And there we have it. The entirety of the lore from the Trench Crusade universe, from the original lore primer and playtest rules. I hope you guys found this as interesting as I did, and that this video was helpful for those of you interested in either the game or this universe. If you have any suggestions for other lore dives you'd like to see, please leave a comment so that I can consider it for a future video. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more.
Go tell him, man, to make more. Because I like his Trench Crusade lore videos. But, anyways.
Videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to the next video with all of you.
Alright, guys. So we're going to wind it down here. I want to thank everybody for watching the video through, or everybody who watched the video. You know, and if you liked the video, thank you. If you disliked the video, you know, thank you. You know, at least thank you for giving me a chance anyways. But, I just appreciate you guys getting me to 700. Last time I checked, we're at 724 to probably 25 now. And, you know, I just have you guys to thank, you know. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. And it's probably going to be long. But hopefully it ain't too long. But anyways, guys, you guys have a wonderful day.